All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And I was originally gonna kind of do a blame truth style type of commentary for this particular topic today. I was even in the middle of writing a script, and I'm like, nah, I shouldn't do that. You know, it's like if people actually want to hear blame truth say what he has to say about any given topic, they can obviously go to him, right? They can go to him and watch his stuff. So I was gonna start with I'll give you a little taste, because some of you guys in the post section of my channel were basically kind of looking forward to that. But I was going to start the video with blame truth here, and I usually wait a few minutes before saying this, but fuck it, I got a lot I want to get off my chest because Microsoft all of a sudden decided to pretty much double their Game Pass subscription price to $30 a month. I've said it before on here countless times, and I'll say it again. Greed knows no limits, and corporate greed, I'd argue, is even worse. I guess that very sustainable and very profitable pricing from before wasn't enough for good old Phil Spencer. I guess he wants crusted diamonds on his surf and turf for every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I was going to start with something like that, and I wrote a few more paragraphs, but I'd figure I'd leave it here for those of you guys that were mildly entertained at least. But yeah, guys, Game Pass, which by the way, I canceled my subscription to. I mean, I only had, I've basically been playing on PC whenever I do play games now. I've basically just been playing on PC because, well, let's just face it, PC is the way to go. And if you can afford one, or if you're able to save up for one, it is totally worth it. I've had my PC for 3 years now, and I basically use Steam. And it's been great. There's specials on it all the time. Sometimes some of you guys tell me about it. And obviously the PC experience, especially, if you've got like a backlog as well of games that you never played and stuff like that, not only is it usually good price wise, but you're obviously getting more bang for your buck because you're able to get the additional frame rates, the graphics upgrades and stuff like that. But well, unless you're Borderlands 4, then obviously that doesn't count. But with that being said, yeah, I had for a little while I had the Essentials, which was basically like $10 a month just to be able to play online because I wanted to try something. And once I tried it and I was like a little underwhelmed, I was like, okay, but I forgot to cancel my subscription. So I was like, oh crap, yeah, now this reminds me that I need to cancel my subscription because I don't even need that. I've got PC, and plus I'm playing different games and I don't need Game Pass. And even when I did have Game Pass, especially when they started putting up the higher tiers, I basically didn't use it all that much because I was still playing a ton of multiplayer games and I was just kind of like letting it be for whenever I felt like playing something else. But there were plenty of times, month after month, to where they would get my money, but I really wouldn't use the subscription service. And I'd argue how many people are like that, to where it's like, how many people are actually doing that? But with that being said, now that it's raised to $30 a month, and when people see that on their credit card statement for if they pay good attention enough, they're going to be like, okay, what the hell is this? And then they're going to see it and they're going to be like, oh crap. And then that's going to hopefully trigger them to either downgrade or cancel their subscription entirely, or just remind them that they even had a subscription and then therefore cancel. So time will determine what's going to happen in terms of that aspect. But let me tell you, man, I guess Microsoft really did forget that back in 2013 when the Xbox One released, that thing was just, yeah, I had one and it was weaker than the PS4, but I got it like later after the Kinect wasn't part of the bundle and when Phil Spencer took over and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the price went down $100 because they didn't have the Kinect anymore, but it was still a weaker console though, overall at the time. The first iteration of the Xbox One, the one that looked like a what's it called? A VCR. The one that was like really huge. They basically, like, that one was actually weaker. I think it was, I think it had a hard time. I think it couldn't do 1080p. It was like 900 something p. And the PS4 was probably more powerful than that. Obviously there was no problem. It was always doing 1080 60, or well, depending on the game, but it was always doing 1080, among other things. So basically back in the day, most people got the PS4. I ended up getting the PS4 years later or whatnot. But regardless, I guess they forgot that when they shit the bed, with the Xbox One generation, right? The only thing that saved them was Game Pass. And you were getting a hell of a deal that was consistently getting upgraded for just $10 a month. And then they increased it, by doing tiers, and they kind of bundled up Xbox Live Gold to go with it, because originally Gold wasn't part of the process, part of the bundle. At least I don't think it was. And then they and then they basically made tiers, and now they're increasing the price of those tiers. Specifically, Ultimate. So if you want those day one releases or whatnot, and the 500 plus games or whatnot that they have on offer, guess what? You're paying $30 a month, and it's basically $360 a year for that. And the question I have for you guys is, games are worth $70 now. So are you guys buying 5 or 6 games a year? And the thing is this, some of us are buying 5 or 6 games a year and even more. But when you got something like Steam that also has specials, and of course the optimization benefits for PC for the games that are optimized, and thankfully the majority of them are, because a lot of games are also old and they've been optimized and they just play better or whatnot. Even the ones that are limited to just 60 frames per second, 60 FPS. I will tell you, first and foremost, like, I briefly went back to console for a little bit, and then I saw the difference, felt the difference yet again to remind myself, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to stick to PC on pretty much everything I play. It is the way to do it. So, I mean, if you can, please, by all means do. But if you can't, it doesn't stop there, guys. They've increased recently as well. I didn't make a video on this, but they've also increased the prices. Sony's done this as well. But Microsoft has also increased the price of the Xbox Series X. And S as well, I believe. So it's like, holy crap, dude. It's like you're getting essentially not much more, if anything, for a much higher price. It's like, huh? And then, back in the day, Microsoft was a little bit more consumer friendly, actually a hell of a lot more consumer friendly, especially when they officially first revealed the Xbox Game Pass subscription, which was a hell of a deal. But now it's like, I'm thinking to myself, just like everything else I've discussed previously on the channel, all this stuff has been pretty much studied. Like, they're studying about how people are spending their money. And one of the things that's definitely come to the attention to so many people, which started with Fortnite, by the way, right? Because when Fortnite really started to hit it big, guess what? It's a free-to-play game that makes their money off of microtransactions, right? Well, guess what? Well, Call of Duty did the same thing, and that profited as well as other games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people are following the money. And guess what? Microsoft is saying, well, if people are spending, this much, right? Because they know the numbers, right? They have the data, right? They're like, well, then we can definitely get away with increasing our prices, right? And the thing is, gaming has become such a big thing lately that people are gonna do it. Like, for instance, you guys know that people spend money on things that are not really necessary, or things that are basically habits in one way or another, whether it's gaming, whether it's another habit that you guys might have. Some of you guys out there might have even more expensive habits that are not all necessarily good. Some habits are okay, and some habits are kind of here and there, and then some habits are just bad for you, right? I don't think I really have to go into detail what habits are really, really bad for you, right? And some of these habits are really expensive, even more expensive than what gaming has become now, right? And they know this, but they can't stop doing it, right? Because it's become a habitual thing. It's become a form of, do I dare say it, a form of addiction, and you just can't stop. You got to have it. And just like, sometimes when it comes to games nowadays, and you guys can tell me in the comment section if you actually relate to this, but one thing that I've also noticed is that people enjoy the anticipation of a game coming out more than the release of the game itself nowadays, right? They're excited for it for weeks or months on end, and then when they get it and they're disappointed, it's like the money's already been exchanged or whatnot, and they're disappointed. It's like much of a letdown. I miss the old days to where you would be really excited for a game, and what you got would surpass your expectations or meet your expectations as far as the excitement is concerned, right? I mean, that's how it used to be, and now it's not. Now it's not. A lot of games are getting away with so much stuff now, like, holy crap. People argue, well, games are harder to make, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, well, games were never easy to make in the first place. Okay, whether they were AAA titles or whatever it was, games were never easy to make, and they always took time, and they always took hard work, and the devs always worked their asses off to make them. Now it's like, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I can't point my finger. I mean, whether it's AI generated slop, or whether it's lazy developers, or developers relying too much on AI more than they have to, as opposed to assisting them. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm not looking that much deep into it. Some of these other channels are. But with that being said, it's like, we're better technologically wise, right? But yet at the same time, we're producing stuff that's not necessarily optimized or complete or finished, full of bugs. Yet the indie developers are producing great games? You know, doesn't make sense. So, and then of course you got the corporate greed going on, guys in suits that probably never can touch a controller in their life unless they were paid to, or to take a picture next to a controller or whatever, that are making all the decisions. So yeah, gaming at this point right now is becoming less and less of something that your average folk is going to be able to afford as time goes on. So, I mean, like even when you look at PC, right? When I got my PC about 3 years ago or so, I had to dish out nearly $2,200 for it, right? And that's a lot of money. Whether you're a poor person or whether you're not a poor person, at the end of the day, it's a good chunk of cash, right? So I dished out nearly $2,200 for it. And one thing that I could definitely say is that obviously, you know, I got the bang for my buck and then some, right? When you're talking about the content creation side of things, as well as the games and all that kind of stuff, right? And the longevity of how PCs are supposed to last and all that good stuff. Steam, of course, as well as some other things that you can get for a cheaper price or in some cases free. But with that being said, you know, the Steam part, you know, is kind of a give and take. But again, even that wasn't cheap, right? You know, and I do it because of the content creation as well as my love of games that I've been doing for so long. So, and I'm glad I did, because consoles are definitely not headed in a good direction. You know, when you look at some consoles, you know, before the price went up, you know, they were already a ripoff as it was. And I'm specifically, in my opinion, looking at, like, when I say that, the first thing that comes to mind is the PS5 Pro. You know, you're paying like what, $200 to $300 extra for like something that is very minute, believe it or not. You know, you're better off getting a PC, trust me. You know, you'd be getting the bang for your buck on that one, as well as consistency. And, you know, and it's like when the PS6 comes out, everything's going to be, you know, everything's going to be catered towards the PS6. And even though you have a PS5 Pro, it's not going to matter as much. It's going to be good, but it's not going to matter as much because, hey, PS6, you know, whatever. You know, that's how it goes. It is what it is. But yeah, the thing is, consumers continue to spend what they spend on for whatever reason, whether it's microtransactions, whether it's whatever, right? It's gone too far now. It's been studied, and it's like, is there a way to stop this? I've said this time and time again. You got to stop buying their stuff. You got to cancel subscriptions and all that kind of stuff to make a difference, because whatever affects their pockets is the only language that these guys will understand. But it absolutely sucks. I'm definitely not happy about it. You know, I've got games that I've bought for my Xbox Series X, which I bought 1 year before my PC. Because I wasn't ready to spend that kind of money on PC yet. So I was lucky enough to get an Xbox Series X. I took advantage of Game Pass while I had it, at least for, you know, at the time when it was reasonable. But yeah, with now, with the way things are, it's like, if I ever need to, I could just, you know, get on and just play the games that I have on there that I don't have on my PC. But with that being said, man, it's like, you know, and I've got the feeling that other companies are going to do this too. You know, I think Sony's might do something even more, you know, and God knows what Nintendo's going to do, because we already know how they are, right? So with that being said, guys, I want to know everything in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about everything that was mentioned here in general, as well as the whole gaming space and everything else? Let your comments be known down below. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys hopefully sooner rather than later.